So we'll talk about software development lifecycle. Okay. What is lifecycle? SDLC stands for software development lifecycle. Okay, so here we're talking about different activities, okay, that are performed when we say we're developing a software. Okay, there are different activities that get performed, and generally these are the steps. So if you see, the BA work is just the it's the first step. Okay, and as a BA we kick off the work, and once we kick off, okay, that's when it goes to next stage. Okay, so stage 1 is about stakeholder interviews. You know what is that, correct? Risk analysis, you know what is that. What is risk analysis?
By using techniques risk analysis, we conduct risk analysis to predict the future risks if we start any project.
Yeah, so we are trying to predict the risk that can occur and also have a plan to mitigate, right? That's why we are trying to predict the risk. Yes. Project management, resources, budget, of course, we have not covered that, but if you remember, when we did business case, we did speak about that. Okay, so at this stage you won't be involved into resources and budget, but of course later you'll get involved. Okay, you create a business case. When you create a business case, you need to know the cost, you need to know the number of people, you know the time that will take to deliver, right? Okay, all those things. Okay, so once that's called project initiation, you know, okay, you get an idea at this stage what exactly you need to deliver. Okay, then it goes into a requirements analysis phase or requirements elicitation. Okay, so you know, project initiation is mostly done at a senior level. Now you get into requirements elicitation. That's where you create use case diagram, business requirement documentation. Okay, you create you get all the information from the stakeholder, and you are ready to give it to the technical team. So once you are done with this, then you pass on to the design phase. Okay, design phase is where the SRS document is written. Okay, so the technical team, and mostly these are the senior people, okay, they will create class diagrams, your ER diagrams, and you know they will create proof of concept. Okay, so POCs are done when, let's say, something that you have not done before. So before you say yes, we can do it to your customer, you want to develop at a smaller scale to see whether you can, you know, you can work on it or not. Okay, and then, you know, if you are able to work on it, then you can say that yes, we will be able to deliver. Okay, so when you build a small model, it will you will come across all the challenges, problems that can occur. Okay, and you are no, you can say, right, you cannot promise and then later you realize that you cannot develop it, right? So let's say you ask me a question on a topic for which I don't know the answer, right? So I cannot start giving you the answer. So what I'll do is I will first read, confirm, then I'll come and answer to you, isn't it? That's the right way to do it. Okay, same thing here. So you design a proof of concept to see if things can be delivered, what customer is asking, and then you say, then you promise. Okay, if you can't, then you'll have to take some outside help, consultants, help, or or you give it to somebody else, the project. Okay, various things. So all these are done at the design stage. So design stage will is like it is part of the development stage, pre-development stage, where you are putting all the plans on paper. Okay, and design is done by the senior folks. Okay, who understand, who've been in the you don't code actually. Okay, there's no coding involved, but everything that needs to be done before coding, like as I said, right? Graph, class diagram, proof of concept, and then you will give it to the implementation team to implement it. They would take the design and they'll start coding based on the design. Okay, so you talk about prototyping, unit testing, and system integration. Prototype is about building a new feature, a new process. Okay, so once you start building, okay, then you need to, let's say you'll have various people involved in the project. Okay, so everybody is developing and doing their own testing of things. That's what we call it as unit testing. So unit testing is everyone doing their working and testing their code. Once that is done, then it goes into integration testing. In integration test, system integration or integration testing, you are taking everybody's work and you will put them together, right? Ultimately, everybody is trying to make one single software, right? So you will take everybody's work and then put them together, okay? Put them together and then test it, whether it's working fine or not. Yes, clear?
Yes, sir.
So, okay. So first project initiation, you look at the risk, you look at the stakeholder interviews, you create budget, planning, all those things. And if everything is well, that means you understand what customer want, your stakeholder wants, you know the project is within budget and you have the right resources, you can work on it. Then you go ahead to the next level of requirements, you speak, you get the exact requirement illustration that you perform, you create all your documents. Then it goes to the design team, which is the technical team, right? So you hand over your BRE technical team, they'll come up with software requirement specification, they come up with the design, okay, like class diagram, interface design, okay, proof of concept, things like that. So once that is done, then it goes to the implementation stage where they'll start coding. So once coding is done, you have to test your application as well, right? So you test your application. So once individual applications are tested, then since you're building one single software, everybody's else code has to be merged together to form one single system. So while after merging, you will also test if everything is working fine or not. That's called system integration. So once that is done, it goes to testing phase, QA testing, we call it. Okay, see, implementation also has testing. Implementation has testing, so there are two types of testing. Okay, what is called verification, what's called validation. Now, when you see, if I tell you to add two numbers, right? I tell you to write a code to add two numbers. So you'll write a code and you will test it to see that, right? If 2 + 3 gives you 5 or not, correct? That's called verification. Okay, you're checking or you're verifying that what you were supposed to do, you are able to do. The next testing is called validation. Should it be plus or minus? Okay, this is more from domain. Okay, should we do plus or minus? Isn't it? Okay, why should we do plus? Okay, what does customer want? It's all about business, right? So validation testing will have automated tests or user testing. They would perform these tests. Okay, validation testing more as a user. Okay, and then if they give you okay, if testing team gives you okay, then you will release and deploy. So deploy where you are implementing at the customer side. You are giving the code to the customer to install and start setting up their systems. Okay, so testing and then deployment. Deployment is end of the project. then you also have to maintain, right? If tomorrow if some error comes, who will fix it? You will fix it. So we call it as maintenance. And of course, companies will also charge money for maintenance. Okay. So maintenance is like, okay, customer is using a product, but they might come across some bugs. Okay, they might need to make some small modification, things like generally 6 months, 1 year maintenance is free because you'll expect a lot of errors there. And then once you are, after that, you will charge them for your service. Because the maintenance, actually, most of the people, most of the companies, they make more money in implementation because, sorry, in maintenance. Okay, because there's a lot of competition, right? So they'll quote less, okay, for software development, and then they will start charging for maintenance. Okay, that's when they make money. And maintenance will be for 3 years, 5 years. So you'll have money coming in with little effort. Money will be coming in for 5 years, right? Okay. So this is the same SDLC space. Okay, explain a little more detail. Okay, I want you to go see through these boxes and then I'll explain. Let's just see all the boxes, what it is, where it is, what is written, below other, and then we'll talk about it.
Sorry.
Okay. So see here, same 7 stages. So first is project initiation, right? So rough order of magnitude. Okay, so at a high level, what is expected, and it's not about actual cost, but at a rough cost, right? Then you go to the next stage, which is requirements or planning stage. Okay, so you have project management, charter, functional requirements, technical requirements, right? These are the things that we discussed, right? And you create what is called a scope document, right? What is in, what is out. Then a design document. It is mostly internal, okay? But you might have to create some external design to show to customer to win their confidence. One, they are also technically good. So, most of these companies, what happens is, they will have a development team from the client also, right? So, you create, you tell them what needs to be done and they do it. Okay, no longer it's a black box. Like they also have big companies also have a development team. So you work together. So yeah, so that's why you will create external design documents also sometimes. But if there are no person involved from customer, then your documents will not be all internal, right? Then you get into construct. Construct is nothing but implementation, where you start coding. Correct? Then comes your testing, then you release or deployment, okay, and then finally maintenance or enhancement mode. Sounds good? Okay. So these are the phases, and but how do we implement? How do we use in software? Okay. So one of the first model, okay, and the most popular also and basic model is called waterfall model. Okay. In waterfall model, okay, as you look at a waterfall, how does waterfall flow? Water will flow from top to bottom, right? It will never go back. Water will never go back. Once it starts flowing from top, it will get down and go to a river or whatever, right? So that's what we call waterfall model, because when all these 7 steps are one after another. So once you are done with project initiation, and next when you get to requirement phase, you cannot go back to the project initiation. So once you're done with requirements and go to design, you can't go back to analysis again. Okay, if you're done with that, you go to technical or the development stage. Okay? You can't go back and rechange the design. Okay, so initial, if you look at the software development was much influenced by the construction industry. We actually borrowed the process, okay, how the construction industry works. Construction industry, it makes sense, right? You cannot decide, okay, first we'll have so much width of road and then you cannot change it, increase or decrease it, right? You cannot do that. Okay, you have to follow one-way approach only. You can't say, okay, first you'll say, okay, we'll have 10-foot road and then later you make it 20-foot, right? Because foundation is already done. If you try to increase it, will break or whatever, right? So, initial phase, and then people realize that, software is a little different. Okay, software is not like construction, because in software, you can always go back and change the code, right? But when you're building your house or bridge or any of the civil work, you can't, construct and then you say, no, I don't like it, let me change it. And, once it is done, right? But software is not like that. Software, you can always go back and change the code. So they say that, okay, the software is giving us so much flexibility. Why should we not be flexible? Let's also be flexible and let's use a model, okay, which actually is similar to how we work. So few years back, maybe 15, 20 years back, the waterfall model started losing its importance. Okay. So instead, what they did is they said, okay, let's have a iterate. So there are many models we'll see. Okay. But this is the first model. In fact, even now, when you're talking about something complex process, okay, let's say you're designing something for NASA, right? So there, okay, it is always better that you follow waterfall model, because other model, it allows you to make changes, right? And when you're developing something like that, you cannot make some change. Let's say you figure out a problem at later stage, you want it to investigate why the problem has occurred. You cannot say, okay, let the problem be there, right? Because the chances, the accuracy is low, right, comparatively. And so, you don't want to run into those risks. So waterfall model, okay, was best model, and still in some projects they use, okay, not much, okay, very less, maybe